Okay, so I think that we are just running fine, and people waiting for us to show the moon should start by now, seeing at least my face. Well, the moon is much better, I know, but just trying that everything is okay. Also, the audio should be fine, so I think that everything is up and running. So I apologize if we are starting at 3 minutes later, but we were just checking that all the technicalities were okay to leave this planet and just fly to the moon. And okay, from my point of view, friends, everything should be running just great, just fine. So I'm just checking the very last things to be sure that this crazy astronomer has did everything he really need to do. So friends, I think that we can officially start this nice event bringing you to the moon. So good evening, good day, good morning, good afternoon, depending from where you are on this beautiful planet, friends. Gianluca Masi speaking from the Virtual Telescope Project, and it is for me a joy as every year, every time during Global Astronomy Month, we share with the people worldwide the wonders and the beauty of the cosmos where we live. It is for me a particular pleasure because I started, meaning I joined Global Astronomy Month since the very first edition. Now we are about, we should be, if I remember right, almost 10 years old, because I remember everything started soon after the International Year of Astronomy. It was 2009, so quite a lot of time ago, almost 10 years ago. And from the following year, Astronomers Without Borders, founded by my good friend Mike Simmons, started to keep alive the legacy of the International Year of Astronomy. Also, helping people discovering then that when you look up, you are not only enjoying the stars, the planets, those very far distant fascinating galaxies, but the sky is much more. A lot of people is looking at the stars not for doing science, but for, feeding their imagination, just to create art. And the sky is truly such a wonderful connection between scientists, musicians, artists, writers. I really cannot imagine something more universal than the universe. And this evening, of course, we are just going to spy our wonderful neighbor, our only natural satellite. It is the moon. Everyone here believes that we really know everything about the moon. That is not true. In a good meaning, If we still have a lot to understand about the moon, which makes the future generations very happy because they will do something just to complete our knowledge about the moon. What we are missing now will be very likely discovered by our children. So this is something I always love to remember. And tonight we will have a very special tour because it will be not only astronomical, my friends, it will be also keeping in mind that the sky is a great source of inspirations for artists. And very soon I will be introducing you our amazing guest, and I'm very happy and proud to have her with us, and very soon we will discover a bit more. Of course, you already know this because I imagine you have already read the description of this event, so I can just tell you that our guest tonight will be Bettina Forget. She is a visual artist, and she works a lot in art, keeping the universe, the wonders of the cosmos where we live, as a very powerful source of inspiration. Of course, Bettina will tell us much more about her imagination, her work, and especially about her projects, because Bettina has something very nice to share with us while we will be working and working together on the moon. So I really would like to introduce now Bettina, and so I'm very happy now to to I mean to switch on her video. So Bettina, I'm very happy to tell you welcome on board, welcome on this very strange, very special spaceship leaving just now to reach the moon. Welcome on board.
Thank you.
I'm very happy, Bettina. If you like, you can really introduce you. You can share with our audience your feeling, your thoughts, and as I told you, I will be very happy to reach the moon together and to listen to you and learn more about your heart, about your work, and about your project.
Well, thank you for taking me along to this wonderful journey. I've got my tray table in the upright position. And so my project about the moon, I'm an artist who is very inspired by astronomy, and a lot of my projects are informed by either astronomical sort of scientific papers or conferences, or looking through my own telescope, which I think you can see behind me right there.
Yes. I saw it and I was curious about it.
Yes, that's my 8-inch Dobsonian. So as I was doing a lot of observing with my telescope, I noticed that on the moon atlas, I love, when I sketch at the telescope, of course, to find a good target, I have my moon atlas with me. And as I was looking through it, I noticed that all the craters are named after very interesting people, great men like Plato and Aristotle and Kepler. And then this thought occurred to me. I wondered how many moon craters are named after women.
Yes.
As a woman, that idea kind of suddenly floated through my head. And then I went through the index and I started counting, and I went on the International Astronomical Union. They have a website, and I downloaded the entire list. 1,605 craters on the moon are named. Of course, there are more craters, but 1,605 are named. So guess how many are named after women? I'm not going to tell you right away. Why don't you give me? We'll see if in the feed maybe. I know people can make comments. Give me a number.
That is wonderful. So I can imagine, Bettina, that this evening we are leaving to reach the moon, keeping, of course, in mind, keeping an eye. I mean, just taking this special interest you just described it, you share it with us in mind. So I think our look at the moon tonight will be truly inspired by this very special idea. Women on the moon. Sounds great, I mean.
Yeah. So I counted it up, and it is 29 women out of the 1,605. So that's 1.8%, which I thought was very little. So as an artist, the way I deal with a question or an issue that I sort of come across, I make art about it. And I started just to draw the moon craters. I have a couple of little sketches here.
Please.
These are not the original. I'm just going to make me disappear.
Wow, this is a lunar eclipse of Bettina.
That's right.
Wonderful.
So we won't see Lever tonight. Here's another one that is Sklodowska.
Very nice. By the way, friends, I strongly suggest you to have a look also at bettinaforget.com website, where you will find a lot more about her activities, her artistic jobs, and also other intriguing material. I was very happy to look there. I'm very happy to invite you to go there. And Bettina, by the way, I would like to thank you for sharing your sketches with us, because these days, I mean, these years, we are strongly dominated by technology, but keep in mind that for thousands of years, we just recorded the wonders of nature, the wonders of the cosmos just through our own senses. And to me, it is very important that we keep this alive. Also, to support the legacy of those ancient observers, because this is also important from a scientific point of view, because continuing these days to use our own eyes to record with our pencils, the moon, planets, and similar things, we are basically using the same techniques, and it is much easier this way also to sum our knowledge to the wonderful, huge knowledge of the past. So thank you very much for inviting us to think about this, really.
Yeah, I also think that when you sketch at the eyepiece, and I do a lot of that, is that you look more closely. You don't just see, you observe. And with the pencil in your hand, as you're drawing, all the little features of the moon craters, all the little central peaks and the terraced crater walls, they really sort of tattoo themselves into your brain. And then after that, when you see that crater, even in a photo, you'll always recognize it.
You're
So
right.
I think drawing is a really great way of understanding something and remembering something later.
You're right. I completely agree. So I really think, Bettina, that we can start just seeing what the telescope has ready for us.
Yes, that's
Well, let me say this. Bettina is in Canada. I am in Rome, in Italy, and the telescope is about 100 kilometers south of Rome. So everyone here is in a different place. But despite this, we are creating such a beautiful community with the people joining us. So I think that this is the bright, wonderful side of technology, despite the distances. And this is also underlying the mission of Astronomers Without Borders. Without borders, of course. So technology really helps to make those borders disappear, and the sky is just like a big hug from the above. It's just keeping all us together. So I'm ready to start sharing what the telescope is seeing. I was a bit worried earlier because here in Italy, this first month of this year has been really bad as for the weather. But tonight, even the clouds decided to give us some room for this wonderful, wonderful experience. So, friends, I'm just going to share the telescope console. I also want to add both Bettina and me like little windows so that we can observe, but at the same time we can keep, of course, an idea of the speaker. So friends, I just want to introduce what is happening here. We have a telescope, of course, and this telescope will be moved thanks to our computers. And we really want to show to you the moon, but unfortunately the telescope is in Italy, you are somewhere on this planet. But thanks to a very special camera on the telescope, we will taking picture of the moon through the telescope and just receiving those images via the internet. So I find this to be a truly very, very fascinating experience. And what you see here is simply the little software we need to control the telescope. Basically, we have to ask the telescope to point something. And as you can see, the telescope is already pointing on the moon. The moon right now is where you see the yellow circle. To be honest, the yellow circle says where the telescope is looking, but I already slewed the telescope to the moon. So the moon is basically just there. And to be sure that everything is working just fine, Bettina, we are going to take our first image, just a very quick test, just to be sure that the moon is still there. I'm very excited, Bettina, I must say.
Yeah, it's good to make sure that the moon is still there.
So I just pushed the camera button to capture our very first vision, our very, very first image. It will be just a general image. I pointed the telescope to the moon and just took an image. And here it is, friends. Just let me adjust at the best possible. Wow, I love what we start seeing here. This is really the moon. Wow, the craters, Bettina. As an artist, by the way, Bettina, when you see those craters, what is the art, as an artist, what is your feeling while you see those very strange features?
It's really I feel like I'm flying. I feel like the telescope is like a spaceship that makes you travel without moving. And I feel like I'm sort of floating over the moon and I'm just sort of looking down at it. It's like it's even a little bit disorienting to be suddenly transported so quickly to a different place. And I find that when I do sidewalk astronomy and there are people who haven't looked at the moon before, they get the same reaction. They look through the eyepiece and they're like, "Whoa!" You look out, it's like, I can how can I see this? So it's always such a delight to be able to see the moon live.
I agree. I think that everyone, while during her or his life, should at least see the moon because it is close but so much different from our own planet is so inspiring. And thank you. I'm very curious because I apologize, Bettina. I will ask you perhaps a lot of things because I am perhaps the most curious guys just listening to you. So I will abuse of your kindness just to discover to discover more about your interest, your work, and also about your project. Because right now I have an image of the moon where, of course, we see very beautiful craters and also those larger, darker areas we call Maria, where of course there is no water. Don't think to go there just to swim. No water at all there. We are still discussing if there is or not water on the moon. I mean, very small amounts as highs. And there are some important space missions which reported positive detection of this, but not enough, friends, to go there and swim next summer. So, Bettina, we are. I have also a nice seeing. The atmosphere is with us. I mean, the images looks good, and the details are truly impressive. And as you told, it is like if we are flying over the moon right now. And I would like to, at this point, Bettina, to leave you. To leave you, I mean, the ideal, the command of this spaceship. So please feel free to bring our attention where you wish.
Oh, okay. Can I give you coordinates?
Yes, for sure.
Well, why don't we go up to Aristotle's crater
Yes.
and start looking around there because there's one moon crater named after a woman. Actually, there's two, like near there. Maybe sort of the northern edge of Mare Frigoris,
Yes.
due south of Aristoteles. There's Sheepshanks.
Wonderful. I will ask the telescope to refine its pointing just to be sure that the region you just mentioned will be well placed for our friends and for our telescope to look. Just 1 second because everything here is happening live, friends. I mean, it will take sometimes a few seconds to have the new image coming because there is the internet. I mean, so we really need to wait sometimes for the screen to update, to refresh. But I hope that this experience will be for you very enjoyable. This is live. This is not, a simulation. This is truly what the telescope is seeing right now.
This is very cool, actually. I feel like we're sneaking up on it. So like a slow descent onto the lunar surface.
I do agree, Bettina. And I think here we should have Aristoteles. I'm trying to zoom a bit and just also to make sure that the telescope tracks the moon
Of course.
because of course the moon is never tired of course to orbit around us. So let
Actually, when I'm doing observing with people, and my Dobsonian, of course, isn't motorized, so the moon will sort of drift through the eyepiece, and they will say, "Oh, like the moon is moving." It's like, no, you're not watching the moon move. You're watching the Earth turn, which is a completely different concept.
Absolutely. And I must admit, Bettina, that when I was a child and I used my first telescope for the first time, I was really sad. I was worried that the telescope had something bad, something not working, but it was the Earth, as you said. This is wonderful. Okay, here we are in the right region. Well, Bettina, you really invited us to look at a very special region. Here we
Mhm.
have, I mean, the Aristoteles crater. I will try to put it in the very center of the screen. Here it is, just trying to enlarge.
Nice.
Here it is. Here it is. Wow, this is a wonderful region of the moon, Bettina. How wonderful! And here it is, Aristoteles. Uh, I, I, I want to tell to the friends with us that, of course, you have many craters, but this large crater in the very center, this is the Aristoteles crater that Bettina suggested us to look at. Here, we are there, Bettina.
Fantastic. So actually, when you look at Aristoteles, right underneath Aristoteles, yeah, there's this little bump that is sort of glued at the southern position, like say 6 o'clock.
Yes.
That little that's actually another crater that is a Mitchell crater, named after the American astronomer Maria Mitchell.
Oh, that is so. So they, I understand. I understand. So, friends, as Bettina told so clearly, the larger crater is of course Aristoteles, while the smaller one on the bottom on our image, because our image is oriented with north-south on left and right. This one is the crater named after Mrs. Mitchell, right?
That's right. Yes, and she was very interesting. Um, she discovered a comet. She was one of the first women, I think, the first woman to discover a comet through a telescope, and actually won a gold medal from the King of Denmark, who was sort of giving out medals at the time for people who discovered comets through telescope, because it was a
Wow.
very exciting and new thing. Yeah, so she was quite an extraordinary woman in her time. That was sort of around 1850s, I think it was 1847.
I understand. And so a crater named after these truly amazing women is truly, it is very right to have this crater for the memory of these wonderful women. They really did a lot of work, and I'm very happy that thanks to your contribution, Bettina, we are remembering also in those past centuries the important contribution of women to science, to astronomy.
Yeah, and there've been uh, quite a few. I mean, more than the 29 that are commemorated. But the women who carry when moon craters are named after them right now, they are really pioneers in their field. They often had to study astronomy sort of in secret, or were not encouraged. Though Maria Mitchell was lucky; her dad was an astronomer, and often it was, like, astronomy would run through the family, so a cousin or a brother or a husband would also be interested in science or astronomy, and then that would influence the women to also study it and make major contribution. Ooh, that's a nice close up there, Gian.
Yes,
That looks
yes,
great.
yes. I'm trying to see.
All right, look at that. That's really lovely.
Yeah, I'm just trying to see if adjusting the focus a bit we can improve, because the sunset was about 30 minutes, 40 minutes ago in Italy. So right now our atmosphere is sharing the heat, and so there is
Of
a little
course.
turbulence. But I think that we are really having a nice sight. So I'm happy that we have you as a guide. It's wonderful to to
Well,
be.
maybe different perspective. We never think about like really in detail who the craters are named after, and it's a on the moon. The convention is that moon craters are either named after astronomers or mathematicians or philosophers. So why not check out a little bit the background?
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. So I also happy that there is an aspect of astronomy which can be mentioned right now, Bettina. Sometimes when we are invited to look something we don't know, for example, we are forced to visit something very beautiful that we were going to miss without that motivation. I mean, you asked us to point the telescope to that crater, so we are not only enjoying the crater and the meaning, but also the surroundings. So we are there for that crater, and we are also taking benefit of the panorama, the lunar panorama all around. And this is truly beautiful. Thank you
Yeah.
for this first step, Bettina. So feel free to
Oh, where should we go next? You know what? Sort of, why don't we head to the Highlands because there is Hypatia and Catharina. Maybe we could start with Hypatia.
absolutely. Let's
Yeah.
let's find this truly important crater, just
Yeah.
celebrating one of the most important scientists ever, because I really love the Hypatia history and all the contributions. So I will be very happy to ask our telescope to go to the right place to enjoy this new destination, this new crater. I must say that the field of view of the telescope is large enough that, in principle, we have a lot of the moon already covered. So let me see if I still need to adjust the pointing or not. Maybe I think that we should. Okay, let me point.
Already see. I can already smell it. I can already see it just there at the bottom of my
Yes,
tranquility index.
yes, you're right. I want to try to see if I can just ask the telescope to center a bit better the
Hmm.
region we are ready to visit now. Let me see if I did this correctly or not, because sometimes I had to wait for the new image to see if something will happen or not. I don't see. Perhaps the telescope didn't. Okay, just wait for the next image. Okay. I think that the telescope did its job. Now again, I ask to the telescope to track the moon, so we will have possibly the best images. Okay, if I am right, Bettina, we should be close to the right position. Okay, I want to be sure I'm doing the right things. Okay, because I had to recognize, because I have a map, but the map is has a different orientation.
Oh, of course, yes.
It is always happens every time you try to observe something. So I think that we should be very close. Let me see.
So Hypatia was a really an amazing person to know. I mean, she's very well known nowadays because there've been movies about her and books written about her. But
Yes.
she was which century was she? I'm gonna just check. Well, around 400 and some AD, she died, so just before that. And she was a philosopher and astronomer, and mostly known for her mathematics in Alexandria, where she taught in a Neoplatonic school. And yeah, this was at the time of the rise of Christianity. And she was, even though she was, I guess you would call her pagan, she was very accepting of all kinds of religious background. She would teach everybody. And she also was a writer. I think she wrote 13 books and edited other books, and she built astrolabes and she built hydrometers. Really, like quite an extraordinary woman.
Wonderful, and I understand, and I am amazed by this actually, that these people, these women, can really inspire us, despite the long time just between us. But these wonderful people, these amazing scientists, these heroes of knowledge, basically, are still there, stand strong just to inspire us. And I think that every time we point a telescope somewhere, and tonight to the moon, also with our special guide Bettina, we are really also just getting inspirations, because these people changed history, changed our knowledge. They really did something great. And thank you, Bettina, for sharing your thoughts, your knowledge, and also these stories, because I think that the sky has a lot of stories, and you are helping us to unveil some very beautiful ones.
Yeah, and it's also when if you get close to the crater, I mean, it is really normally you think craters are very round, but this one is such an ancient crater. It's really beaten up. It's kind of asymmetrical. It's
Yeah.
very rugged. So you really need to look at your moon atlas first to be able to spot it well, because it doesn't look like a typical neat crater. It's really sort of, it's seen a lot of action.
Yes, yes. I want to take inspiration from your words, because I want to remind to our people, to our friends, that those craters are basically the gift to the moon from asteroids, that and a lot of collisions during the long life of the moon. The moon is a bit younger than the Earth, but it already has 4 billion years, more or less. And over this long time, a lot of asteroids reached the surface of the moon, leaving their souvenir in the shape of a crater, of course. And also because the moon has no atmosphere and no wind, no water, what is left on the moon can really stay there for billions of years, unless another asteroid coming later will impact where an asteroid impacted earlier. So the new crater will basically overwrite the old ones. And sometimes you can find these kind of things just looking a crater inside another one, and you can really understand which is older, which is younger. And sometimes also the strange shape of a crater is simply the result of these collisions coming one after the other. So the shape is basically the outcome of this accumulation of impact. So there are a lot of stories you can really read on the lunar surface. And again, I really want to thank Bettina for just guiding our work on the moon through this wonderful site, these wonderful craters.
Can you maybe with your cursor just even point to where it is, because it looks like this odd little footprint with toes coming down, and it does. So if you follow that, like that little peninsula that reaches, yeah, there it is. That reaches into the Mare. There is this like odd little. Yeah, I think it looks like a paw print nearly at this. Of course, they always look different. If you look at this crater tomorrow, because of the way the sun moves and the moon moves, the shadows will be very different. even when you're sketching it, I'm giving a sketching moon crater workshop at the weekend. And one of the first things I tell people is to draw your shadows right away, because the shadows on the moon move so fast, you forget that it's not static, right? So I think it's also a really fun exercise to look at the same crater on different days and see what is hidden and what is revealed day after day.
Yes, this is a very nice point, Bettina, by the way. So I really suggest all the friends just listening to us to use their telescopes. Even small telescopes can really help unveiling this fantastic aspect that Bettina shared with us. And when I was younger, I was amazed to read and to study that some ancient observers, uh, 2 centuries ago, after the telescope, so the last 4 centuries more or less, and learning that sometimes someone recorded a very special detail of the moon which was not easy to see again. So you had to wait for the very similar special conditions from the light from the sun to reveal the same detail. So this is another really mind-blowing factor. Really, Bettina, you're right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, and that reminds us that the moon is a landscape, just like we have landscapes on Earth, right?
absolutely
We always see it because we always see the same side of it, and it becomes this iconic image, and it seems so immovable, and we forget that it's not a living place, but it's a place, just
yes.
like the Earth is a place.
Yes, by the way, Bettina, I will be happy. Of course, I am saving all the images we are capturing tonight, and I will be extremely happy to make these images available for you to the people interested, so they can download, they can sketch with, they can do whatever they want. So I will be happy tomorrow to create an archive of these things, to put it somewhere on the web. I will tell you, and feel free to use it for your needs, for your projects. I will be very happy.
Thank you. That's fantastic.
My pleasure.
Thank you so
My
much.
pleasure. It is wonderful to visit the moon through your guide. So feel free to bring our attention wherever you want. We are ready to ask the telescope to go there and there at your command.
Oh, why don't we now go to Catharina?
Oh, wonderful.
She's a little further down, and it's also the beautiful crater chain to look at.
Yes, I want to see if we can possibly improve the focusing, or if the okay, no, I see that from time to time. Oh, this one is beautiful, really beautiful now. This is a moment with our atmosphere much calm, much steady, so we can really see much better the moon surface. And I want to put the Catharina crater suggested by Bettina to the very center of our screen. So just go in there and try to make this adjustment. Oh, it should be enough to click on it. Here we are. So friends, we should be observing right now. We should be there, I think.
Yes. So it's the kind of the one, yes. Again, the one that is kind of beaten up. So you see there are 3 craters that are curving around Mare Nectaris. And so from our point of view, the one on the left, that's Catharina.
Yeah.
It doesn't have the central peak. So there's 2 kind of glued next to each other, and then there's a little space, and then there's a fairly large one. So that's Catharina.
Here it is in the very center. So friends, as you can see, there are a lot of craters, but as Bettina reminded, this one in the center, by the way, is Catharina. It is quite large, by the way. It is, and it is perhaps, Bettina, it was one of the first craters I learned to recognize at the telescope, maybe.
Yeah, because that whole crater chain, it's what is it? Theophilus, and Cyrillus
See, and Catharina, yes, from the right to the left, yes.
So those are great targets when you're starting to observe with the telescope. They're really great also to sketch, and I like that they're all a little bit different. And yeah, so Catharina is an excellent target, and it is huge. It's like 100 kilometers across.
Wow.
Some of the other ones that I've been mentioning, they were like between like 20 and 30 kilometers. So this is like 3 times larger.
Please, so keep in mind, friends, when you see such a large crater, you are seeing a feature which has a diameter of 100 kilometers. Okay, keep in mind that our moon is on average at 384,000 kilometers. So if you just travel as at the speed of the as fast as the light, it will take a bit more than 1 second to reach the moon. But despite this distance, you can see many small details. But of course, when you see a large crater, it means it is honestly really large. And this one, as Bettina reminded us, I mean, Catharina is 100 kilometers. So if you cross the size of the crater with your eye, you are just scanning 100 kilometer of extension on the moon. It is a a nice way also to understand how big the moon is. It is about 1/4 of our planet, so it is smaller, but not as small after all. It is not, a small satellite. Basically, is like an younger brother, an younger sister of the moon as for the dimension. And I just want to underline, for example, that planet Mars has two satellites, Phobos and Deimos, and those satellites are extremely small compared to the planet. They are like stones, basically.
They're like flying potatoes.
Yes, very nice. Yes. This brings the ideas very well. Imagine two potatoes just orbiting around Mars. Okay. Well, the moon is spherical. The moon is basically so as much as such a very wonderful shape because also because of its dimension. So when you see the Earth and the moon, basically you perhaps it will be better to imagine like a similar my English here is not good as I would like to see. It is not just the hierarchy you see from a small satellite and a huge planet. They are basically sisters, from this point of view.
Yes, there's like a co-evolution that happened there
So
between the Earth and the Moon.
So we are basically now just over these three wonderful craters with Catharina sitting in the very center, and I also invite our friends to see how image after image sometimes you see better, sometimes you see worse, because our atmosphere is like an ocean of air, and there are winds, there is heat just mixing the air. So we are looking the moon through this ocean of air, and this is turbulence, something you know when you travel across the skies to reach Europe from US and back and forth. So this is another proof that we are observing from the Earth to the moon crossing the atmosphere.
Yes, that's right. It's interesting to see air. Normally you just don't notice it, but as an amateur astronomer, the seeing, or how transparent the sky is and how calm it is it's a big factor.
Yes, and sometimes it really makes a huge difference from this kind of observations. When you observe the moon, when you observe the planets, you really want to spot the smaller details possible. And here, of course, the amount of turbulence in the atmosphere really matters, as Bettina reminded us.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, and a word about Catharina herself. I always like to mention, who the crater is named after. So this is Saint Catherine of Alexandria, also known as Saint Catherine. What's interesting here is that now scholars think that Saint Catherine wasn't actually a person, that she never existed, that actually Saint Catherine is Hypatia, and that sort of religious scholars picked up on the idea of Hypatia because Hypatia was assassinated by a Christian mob because she got in the middle of some fights between two bishops. And the idea of St. Catherine is kind of the reverse, where pagans were killing a Christian woman. So it's a little bit of revisionist history going on there.
Wonderful. And friends, understand that while we are just, scratching little things on the moon, we already discovered a lot of things. So what if you start observing the moon and the sky more often? Try, it's simple. You can start with your own eyes, and you can also visit astronomerswithoutborders.org website and discover that there are, for example, events close to you where you live, and you can join, you can meet people, because what we really love about astronomy also, in addition to science, to fascination, to art, to history, is the opportunity to meet people sharing the same interest, the same passion for what is keeping you alive at night. Not sleeping, but well alive and looking. We are not crazy to be stand at night. We are just in love with the wonders of the sky. Try and you will understand better, I think.
Yeah. So you want to go to another stop?
Absolutely. We are here. This is your spaceship, Bettina. So.
Okay. Well, let's helm. Let's fly to Tycho crater.
Tycho?
Because near Tycho is Proctor crater, which is named after Mary Proctor, an American astronomer.
Absolutely. We are going to see the Tycho crater. Okay.
And people will know Tycho because that's where all those rays come from, that beautiful ejecta blanket of rays at the southern part of the moon.
Absolutely. By the way, you are perhaps, friends, you are perhaps, you are seeing how while moving across the moon, sometimes you are really in the between among a lot of craters, and sometimes you have less. This is another nice thing to note. The moon is not the same everywhere, and this is another aspect that our work is just unveiling. And while Bettina is just guiding us through the moon, walking on the moon, looking around, we can see that some regions of the moon have a lot of craters, other regions have much less crater, and this is also very, very intriguing. And now we have another destination, and let's try to find the Tycho crater. We are using this important astronomer of the 16th century just to locate the next target. Okay.
Actually, Tycho, this was going to be a tour about craters named after women, but Tycho, I must say, is one of my favorite characters, in general. Like what a guy. First of all, to do an entire star map with the naked eye before the telescope was invented. That was impressive.
Yes.
But he had a golden nose, right?
Yes.
Yes. Because he lost his own nose in a duel. They were with a fellow student. I think they were debating a point of mathematics, and it was a duel in the dark with a rapier, and he had his nose cut off. Made his own nose because he was into alchemy and metallurgy at the time. And there is, I'm German, so in German there is turn of phrase, something that you say somebody's very rich. It's like he earned himself a golden nose. And I always wondered if that had to do with Tycho Brahe.
And thank you, Bettina, also for reminding about these aspects, because history of astronomy is really filled with a lot of amazing people with truly amazing stories to understand, strange things to discover, and sometimes perhaps next time when when you will plan your holidays, maybe you will decide to visit a place with some special meaning for this amazing scientist, and perhaps you will feel even much closer to their life. And this amazing work we are doing with Bettina perhaps can be an inspiration also for this. Their discovery is everywhere. So use what Bettina is telling us, sharing with us, also as an inspiration to do something yourself, to look the moon, to learn more about the people Bettina is telling us, and what they did and where they lived. I think that every detail can be really the source of a lot of joy, discovering, learning, and sharing with people.
Yes, I agree. I think it's wonderful to discover all these very dedicated people who went to extreme lengths sometimes to discover the night sky.
Here,
I mean, Tycho Brahe, he was given a lot of money and he decided to spend it on buying and getting an island and building an entire like a castle dedicated to astronomy.
see,
Somebody else bought a
Uranienborg.
yacht.
Yes, 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 yes. After all, it was we always today we admire the huge observatories, but the one owned by Tycho was perhaps the most important observatory of his time. So,
Yeah.
wow,
Well, so Tycho crater itself is a beautiful object to look at, and sometimes it's not very obvious because it's not a huge crater. It's just those rays make it look so prominent, and then at some days you don't see the rays very well, so then you really have to look for it. But yeah, so we're looking at Tycho, and sort of the southeast is a little worn crater that is Proctor crater, named after an American astronomer. And it's
oh,
just 52 kilometers, so about half the size of Catharina.
wow, wow. You can this part of the moon is amazing. I am in love with this portion of the moon. You really have countless craters, and sometimes it is hard, Bettina, to to
Yeah, it's
look.
like, which one?
So there are a lot of them, and I think that the crater we were looking for, the Proctor one, should be this one. Here it
Yes,
is. Here it is. It
yes,
is like
yes,
a ring with a diamond here, another small crater.
exactly, exactly. Yes.
Wow, wow, amazing. Thank you, Bettina, for suggesting us to look at this in this very moment of the lunar day, because you can see that the part of the crater is in daylight, part of the crater is still sleeping in darkness. Wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah. It's when you're looking at moon craters, I always try to see them right at the terminator because the light is the most dramatic.
Yes, yes. I sometimes again, just a little confession. When I was a child, of course, I was ready to observe the full moon with my telescope.
Of
So
course,
I
yes.
was completely, disappointed by the large amount of light, making the vision really bad. And basically, there were no shadows at all, so no details. My telescope was bad? No, it was me bad, just a bad time.
It's all about timing. Yeah.
Yes. How wonderful. Can you kindly, Bettina, tell us something about this woman, just to celebrate her while we are enjoying her crater?
So she was a popularizer of astronomy, a bit like the Carl Sagan of her time. And she was known for writing really amazing astronomy children's books. She was called the children's astronomer. And this is a case also where sort of astronomy ran in the family. Her father was also an astronomer and a popularizer. So she published, I think, about a dozen books
Wow.
on astronomy. So very for a general audience or for kids. I think her first book, Stories of Starland, where it was published in 1898, so just at the beginning of the 20th century.
Wow.
Uh, so yeah, she's and also one of the first women to inducted into the American Association of Advancement of Science. Even though she wasn't a formal astronomer with astronomy training, she knew enough to to do things like us today. Get people excited about astronomy.
Amazing. I really think that these people have been extremely important. We are just doing our little part these days, but I can imagine how much harder was at those times. Now we have very powerful tools. For example, right now we are sitting in our own, chairs, but those people really changed the world somewhat, doing such an hard work, going outside, reaching people. And I'm really amazed and grateful that those great people with a lot of sacrifices really made possible to other people to discover the universe where they were living. So thank you for giving us the opportunity also to remember what these women did for us, because they did this for us. Even if we are apart in time, we are just enjoying, we are moving along the direction that they suggested us to go.
Mhm. Yes, yes. They inspired others who hopefully inspired others,
Wow,
and so on.
it is very hard when you look at these beautiful things, Bettina, really to move to other places, because it is timeless. You can stay here and you can enjoy the slow evolution of the shadow, as you told us. So I want to say this to our friends: don't think if you look the moon tonight you are done. As Bettina told us, it is almost impossible to see the same things exactly in the same way twice. So next month, when the moon more or less will be at the same phase, don't believe you will see the same as tonight. So if you, with the moon, you will be working for the lifetime.
Exactly. It's a never-ending project, and that's why sometimes they even like to try and sketch the same craters through the eyepiece again and again. Even though I think like, I've already done, Plato, I already done Aristarchus, but it always looks a little different, and you feel different that day, and the seeing, the atmosphere may be more clear, so you're seeing different details. So it's also nice to revisit old friends on the moon and just get your pencil out.
Yes, yes. And I will be never tired to repeat. I apologize if I repeat from time to time, but when you observe the sky, you are not only enjoying and possibly discovering the science. There are many other things. There is literature, art, painting, music. So it is truly universal. I mean, and I feel myself lucky, Bettina, for having discovered the sky when I was a child, to fall in love with this thing, because I must admit that I could not live without this wonderful universe to look, to enjoy, to understand. Really.
Yes, same here.
Wonderful. I'm happy that we share when we meet each other. When it is amazing because we understand. It is like if we were already friend, because sharing something, sharing the same love is like to be already friend.
I agree. I agree. And I find that amateur astronomers the world over are very similar. They're very enthusiastic and just warm-hearted and open, and just like, show me your telescope. And it's a really great group of people to hang out with.
Yes, and I also want to remind that this live event is part of Global Astronomy Month, organized worldwide by our friends at Astronomers Without Borders. They are really doing great things, unbelievable things, to bring astronomy everywhere, even in very critical areas of the planet. And perhaps you will be very happy to support their mission. sometimes they need some support to bring telescopes to critical places of the world, like in critical places of Africa, for example, where it is not easy at all to bring to send a small telescope. So visit astronomerswithoutborders.org website, and perhaps we will be very proud to support their mission somewhere on the planet, just to bring the beauty of the sky there. So please visit and support Astronomers Without Borders.
Yes, I agree. Do it.
Do it. So I am just curious to discover, Bettina, if you have something more in mind, I think.
Maybe one sort of last destination, if we are heading to Sinus Medi, like right to the center of the moon, I don't think we can actually see those two craters. Black and Bruce are really tiny craters. They're like 5 kilometers across. They're basically just little bowl shapes. But what I like about Bruce crater is that when you're standing inside, if you imagine you're standing right inside Bruce, and you're looking up, you're right at the center of the moon.
Going there.
And if you're looking up, the Earth will always appear at zenith. So it's an interesting crater to be in.
And we are going. We are just leaving this amazing side of the moon, and on Bettina's suggestion, we are just going back to the center of the scenery. And let me see if okay, I think it is better for me to ask the telescope to sleep, because I want that the telescope is well focused on the region that we are invited to see.
We won't be able to see the actual craters because they're too small, but I think it's also an interesting region.
Absolutely.
And so, and we haven't checked that one out, so let's go there.
I think.
And I can, I can tell you about those two astronomers. So Mary Adela Blagg was a British astronomer, and all these like women that we looked at today, they're all like born between like the mid 1800s and died around mid 1900s. So that's a very popular era. And so Mary Adela Blagg trained herself in mathematics by herself, and when she was in the middle of her life, she decided to take like an extension course at university, and just had a general interest, like a passing interest in astronomy. And somebody suggested to her it would be an interesting project to look at lunar nomenclature. So basically looking at how things are named on the moon, because there are a lot of inconsistencies. And her professor suggested to her that she could make a real contribution, which she did. She basically produced a 2-volume book called Named Lunar Formation in 1935, and that was like the go-to volume for the International Astronomical Union, but just formed around 1920s. And like she cleaned that thing up, and now when we look at the moon maps, it's because Mary Adela Blagg did her thing. She brought order to the chaos.
Wow, it's amazing. As soon as we start to unveil something, we really discover wonderful stories. Really amazing. And this is another reason why I feel lucky with astronomy, because as Bettina is brightly showing us, there are women and men behind these wonderful lunar scale, lunar panoramas, and those wonderful stars. And this human dimension is as interesting as the cosmic dimension, likely.
Yeah, and it could be a fun project for people who are starting to look at the moon, or well, even if you've looked at the moon for a long time and you're looking at the same craters again, or for school kids to say, pick a crater, sketch it, and then research it, who it was named after. Because everybody who gets a crater named after them on the moon, they've done something significant. They made a contribution.
I agree. And I think, Bettina, that we perhaps can see the crater.
maybe. So I'm gonna see. It's
Let me try to enlarge a bit.
yeah. It should be like right in the sort of what they call the marshes on the moon. You know, we've got oceans and seas and lakes and marshes. So that middle region there. I think yeah. I think it's basically in there. I think we're actually seeing it.
Yeah,
Yes. Were you pointing?
here it is,
Got a
yes.
very good telescope there. I'm very impressed.
Well,
That's really great resolution.
happy that basically the weather is with us, because for the first part of the year so far, I was going to change my job actually. Because really I forgot about blue skies, Bettina. So happy that for tonight we are really having such a very favorable, very nice. Wow, right now this image is very good because I feel I can see.
Excellent.
Yeah, yeah,
And you know what? I'm glad that we're looking at this crater because we can see the range. We looked at, Catharina and Hypatia. They were really big craters, up to 100 kilometers across. And now we're seeing something that's like 5 kilometers. And they're different shapes because they're just little, like little blips, little bowls. They're not very super interesting to draw, but they are young. So I think it's Bruce actually, where the walls of the crater are very pale because they haven't aged yet. So you can see it's a very young crater.
wow. It's fantastic, friends, that we had the opportunity to spy the moon live with a very exceptional guide of an artist. Well, you likely you could expect, it is much common to have an astronomer driving this kind of tours. It has been for me really precious to have an artist with such a very strong passion for the sky, just guiding us, just suggesting where to go, where to look. And for me, it has been really such a nice experience, Bettina. And well, people would say that it is normal at this point to thank you. But please understand, I'm very, very pleased that we could have you as a guide to spy these very special places of the moon, just to remind those wonderful women. And for me, it has been so nice to be with you, tracking, just following you on the moon, Bettina, and understanding and discovering these wonderful women and their stories. Very nice.
Thank you so much for taking me along in your spaceship. That was a wonderful way to spend an hour.
I would like to ask you, Bettina, to remind us about your website, because I really would love to have our friends to have a look, because I looked at your website and I was very, very intrigued and interested to learn more about your work. So please remind us.
So it's basically my name, Bettina Forget, and Forget is like forget, Forget, .com. And then you click on my portfolio, and the whole series of the lunar craters named after women is called Women with Impact, because you can take an asteroid to make an impact, to make a crater, but also the women had an impact on society and in science. So Women with Impact, Bettina Forget, and I have other astronomy related things on my website if you want to browse around a little bit more.
Of course, friends, if you have questions, curiosities, you are welcome to write as comments on the video. Of course, we will leave the video on YouTube. You can add as comments your questions, your also your your comments, real comments, not only questions, whatever you would like to share after this journey. And also keep in mind that we are still in April, so Global Astronomy Month has many things ahead. So visit astronomerswithoutborders.org to learn more about the next events. Some of them will be online as well. So first of all, check if you have something local you can attend personally, because while I'm happy with the virtual telescope I created, I am the first to say go out there with your telescope and look the moon in person. There is no computer, no monitor, just giving you the same emotion. And Bettina knows this very well. I see her, she's smiling because she understands very well. But of course, if you don't have any local event close to you, of course, jump into the internet, join us, and we will be very happy to share the universe with you again. And Bettina, thank you very much again for sharing your passion, your knowledge, your artistic sensibility with us, and for making this walking on the moon, which is quite a standard from the virtual telescope, so exceptional this year with your truly precious presence and guide. Thank you very, very much, Bettina. Really a lot.
Thank you again, and thank you for everybody who joined us for the tour.
Absolutely. Again, I want to thank everyone at the Astronomers Without Borders. There are a lot to mention, and I want to mention my good friend and founder and president of Astronomers Without Borders. He is Mike Simmons, really doing a great work with all his collaborators. So I strongly suggest you, as I told you, to visit the website of Astronomers Without Borders, because very likely you will be happy and proud to support their amazing work everywhere on the planet. So thank you very much. Thank you again, Bettina, for making this a wonderful walking on the moon. Take care, keep looking up, and keep looking the sky, taking benefit from your art. Thank you very much. Bye bye.